the topics that we've tabled for our conversation this morning. Let me remind you that the WhatsApp number is 0260846539. We're also streaming live on Facebook, facebook.com/Pan-African Television. We are also on YouTube, youtube.com/Pan-African Television. You can as well share your comments with me via Twitter at Kwame Owusu Danso, and I will read your messages here on the show. I have been joined in the studios by the Honorable Member of Parliament for Tamale Central, Honorable Murtala Mohammed. He likes to be called Comrade. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
And Comrade Kwesi Pratt is also here. Good morning to you, sir. Let's kickstart the conversation from Zimbabwe. But before that, something happened yesterday, and I think it's important that we put it out. Yesterday, we were seized with an information that the home of Honorable Inusa Fuseni, who usually comes on Thursday, was visited by the police, CID. We don't know why, but we presume that it's on the back of the statement that he made on Alaji and Alaji some time ago. And I would want to respectfully ask my panelists here to just make some brief comments on that, and then we can look at the African story. Honorable, let me start with you.
Well, let me say good morning to my senior comrade, yourself, and then your viewing public, and most importantly, the people of Tamale Central. My attention was drawn to this story yesterday in the chamber, somewhere around 6 o'clock.
Right.
We were just about rising when a colleague of mine asked me whether I was aware, because he was suspecting that as someone who succeeded Honorable Inusa Fuseni and a kid brother of Honorable Inusa Fuseni, I should know. So I said, no, I'm not aware. Then he showed me the story as was published on one platform, one of the NDC platforms. I initially dismissed it. I said it could not be true because there couldn't be any basis on which such, unruly behavior was indeed engaged on by the police of this country. But be it as it may, we are all, guessing that the only reason could be the statement he made on this platform. What was wrong with that statement? There is absolutely nothing wrong with the statement. The NDC maintained, and the majority of the people of this country are well aware, that Mr. Nanado never won the elections. The results was fraudulently declared by Jean Mensa, who subsequently changed the results that she declared on the 9th of December. On the 10th of December, she changed it in complete violation of CI 127 without the involvement of the agents of the political parties. And if Honorable Inusa Fuseni sat on this program and said that in his estimation, President Mahama won the elections, and that President Mahama has every right to declare himself the winner of the elections. In 2004, the MPP declared themselves winners of the elections, long before even the Electoral Commission did what they wanted to do. So what is wrong with that statement? You see, it is all an attempt to cow us to submission. It is an intimidatory tactic that this government that has lost control in everything is employing. And they think that, harassing and intimidating people such as Honorable Inusa Fuseni, who has standing and respected within the political party called NDC, we can all be cowed to submission. I think that they've gotten a wrong meat. The strategy is wrong. The more they intimidate and harass leading members of the NDC, the more we strengthen our resolve to resist this oppression. Look, we have all maintained that the democracy we have agreed to charter is a democracy that we must jealously protect. Unfortunately, under this government and under Mr. Nanado, you look in vain. You knock at shuttered doors trying to find semblance of democracy, and you wouldn't find any. This is a person who touted himself as a human rights lawyer, a doyen of our democratic principles and governance. Unfortunately, what we have witnessed under his watch is a complete opposite. Look, it is not out of place for someone to say that we live in a dictatorial democracy. And I say so because they have every right to invite Honorable Inusa Fuseni if they think that he's engaged in an act that is illegal. My understanding is that he wasn't even in Accra when they went and ransacked his house.
Absolutely.
Who gave them permission to enter into the house? Did they go with any warrant? And I shudder to think that it may not be proper security officers who went there. Because under this government, they use the invisible forces. They use the Delta forces. I guess we've seen the video of the Galamsey, where military men in this country are indeed supporting and aiding the commission of crime with members of Delta Force.
Yeah, that's a separate...
The media houses. Yes, I'm saying that. You've seen that. So there are instances where people will be deployed under the yoke of police or security agencies. And it turns out not to be. Recently, there was an arrest that was effected. And I understand that the information we got subsequently was that they were not police officers or national security. These were just a litany of those criminal groups that are formed by this government, aided and financed, who masquerade as security agencies, who engage in things like that. We saw what happened at Owusu, West Wagon. And these were people who were not members of, if you like, the known security agencies, but masquerading as such, using police vehicles to do that. So as we sit now, we do not know which people went to his house to engage in that. We do not know whether they had any warrant to get into the house. We do not know what they did in the house, because it is very clear that if he wasn't in the house, I want to believe that perhaps the family was also not in the house. You may have a security man who is in there. Now, if you go to effect an arrest, so to speak, and the person is not there, he's outside the jurisdiction of Greater Accra, or the jurisdiction within which you operate as a security force or security agency, why do you break into his house? And that is why I'm saying that they are getting, the strategy is very wrong. It will not call us to submission. We would insist and demand that right things are done, and they cannot suppress the free speech of people. The Constitution of the Republic of Ghana guarantees that you can express your conviction on any national issue as long as it falls within the ambit of law.
Absolutely.
Tell me what he did that was illegal. Tell me whether it has become an illegality expressing your opinion on an issue. And in any case, it was not only Honorable Owusu Hussaini who expressed that opinion. Many people, including the NDC as a political party, took an official position that we will not recognize Mr. Nana Addo as the president-elect of this country until there is a full determination of the case of our petition at the Supreme Court. Now, if the party officially says that we will not even recognize that, and there are many people who have argued that the elections so declared was fraudulent, that Mr. Nana Addo never won the elections, how different are those positions and statements made by other people in this country from what Honorable Owusu Hussaini did? So clearly, this is just a tactics to intimidate him, not just Honorable Owusu Hussaini, to send a signal to all of us and to many people that you may not have the opportunity to express your opinion, that freedom of speech is selected, and that it is not anybody in this country who can express his conviction on any national issue as long as it affects this corrupt and incompetent government that is indeed declared as a leader and winner of the elections to a default.
Let me remind viewers that at 9:30 exactly, we shall bring you the proceedings in court. So we will be very expeditious with our submissions today on the show. I've just seen Elvis Bota from the corner of my eye. He's here and they will join us very shortly. But there's a part, respectfully, if you can also respond to this particular issue.
Well, which of them are we?
We're talking about Owusu Hussaini's issue.
I think it's most unfortunate. I mean, all the reports I'm getting indicate that the search on his house was without a warrant. And that makes it very, very sad, you know. The level of lawlessness in our country is becoming exceedingly disturbing. And it is even more disturbing when the lawlessness is exhibited by state security forces. And I condemn the raid on his house, absolutely, you know. If the raid on his house is connected to his claim that President John Mahama won the 2020 elections, then many more people should be arrested. Because there are so many people who have also made counterclaims and so on. I mean, I think that, look, this amounts to harassment and the police should stop it as quickly as possible. You know, it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Why do you subject Owusu Hussaini to this level of harassment when people who have actually sat on television and called for murder and arson are walking free? The law should be no respecter of persons. The law should apply equally to NDC people and also to NP people and to CPP people. And we are not seeing that. And I'm getting increasingly disgusted by these developments. You understand? I mean, this is not what we fought for. We didn't fight for a country in which the ruling party controls everything. And members of the ruling party, you know, the law doesn't apply to members of the ruling party, but only applies to people in opposition. I mean, today, how can we justify the continuous trial of Mr. Ampofo, the national chairman of the National Democratic Congress, when, even if the tape is proven, when people have made worse statements than what is contained on that tape, and they're walking free? Don't let us turn the law upside down. This is clearly unacceptable.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kwame. Let's now zoom in on the issues and look at the African story. Zimbabwe's foreign minister dies of COVID-19. Elvis, maybe I should just start with you on that. COVID-19. Yes, sir.
What were they talking about before my coming?
Oh,
I'm sorry, I had to be late.
Yeah.
I was on another phone from 7. And
yeah.
had to...
As for today, with the grace of respect, for want of time, I just want us to touch on the foreign affairs, the foreign minister's issue.
Foreign minister's issue. Zimbabwe foreign minister died of COVID-19. Yes, it's not surprising. A lot more people far important than him, and some less important than him, if we are to do some social classifications, have perished following COVID-19. I do not see anything special about this, except to say that it only adds on to the emphasis that we have to make as a people towards the fight against COVID-19. I do not think we are too serious with it. The global efforts targeted at COVID-19 seem not to be working effectively, considering the nature of the second wave of it now. Researchers are beginning to warn that beyond even the second phase, which seemed to be more perilous than what we witnessed in the first phase during our lockdown, we are likely even going to head for a third phase of COVID-19, and which is most likely going to be asymptomatic. It wouldn't give you much symptoms. Before they get to notice, you are just gone. Now, beyond the normal fever, headache, cough, as we were warned against, a lot more surprising symptoms are also beginning to feature, relative to this particular discussion, such as RHAs. So I think that even beyond the medicals of it, beyond the pharmacy of it, there is now a psychological dimension, because it does appear to encapsulate every symptom, about any particular sickness in the world. So if my eyes are itching, if your head is aching, if you are coughing,
hoarseness,
the first thing has to hoarseness, fatigue, all have to do with, COVID-19 now. So it makes it very difficult for one to be able to make a risk assessment and, to be able to track what it has to be. In our own country, I am departing significantly from the Zimbabwe's foreign minister, which I said is not surprising. In our own country, in the past few days, look at the people we have lost. Just yesterday, I heard of a UBA's top manager who arrived in office, collapsed, rushed to the hospital. After some hours, he passed on. What was it? COVID. Best Point Savings and Loans. We have lost the CEO, Best Point Savings and Loans, to COVID-19. This happens to be a personal friend. So it's not only Zimbabwe's foreign minister, but it has to do with a lot more influential people. And if you check critically, it's even killing. This is what we are hearing. Those who are prominent in society. Yeah. What about the laymen and women in society like you and I, who may not catch media attention after having been killed by COVID-19? What do we say about them? So one thing that is fundamental to this whole discussion should not even be the pedigree of the people affected, but what are we doing to make sure that the masses whose death arising from COVID-19, which we're likely not going to hear about, are well protected. And I have always emphasized on this platform and others that it's got to do with the personal zeal. Your life is yours, and the fundamental principle of life is self-preservation. You must be willing to preserve and to protect your own life before you move on. And KOD, to conclude, schools have resumed. I haven't taken my kids back to school yet. Why? I'm scared. I'm worried that we have to improve, because if the basis for which we closed
it's still lingering.
Was COVID, and it appears to be more serious now, the statistics are rising, then I think that we will have to rethink, about the resumptions of schools. And so it tells us that we will need to improve upon our systems of protection. Society must observe the social distance protocols and other COVID-related protocols for us to be safe. So we can only, at this point, wish that the minister's soul rest in peace, whilst we focus on what the living must do to make sure that we don't join him.
Thank you very much.
Respectfully submitted, sir.
Yeah, honorable.
Well, I think that it is an important news to report the demise of a minister of state, more so a minister of foreign affairs of Zimbabwe, due to COVID-19. I think that it is an important news. It is so because he's not just like any other Zimbabwean. He's a minister of foreign affairs who represents the entire country called Zimbabwe in their international dealings as far as diplomatic issues are concerned. The question is, how many countries did he travel? How many people did he interact with? To what extent can his demise demoralize the entire government structure of Zimbabwe? And if you take into consideration all of this, you would see the importance on reporting about the death of the Minister for Foreign Affairs in Zimbabwe. I agree that many people across the globe have indeed fallen victims to this. We have had very responsible and high-powered people who lost their lives as a result of COVID. For me, it's a reminder that COVID is a challenge confronting all of us globally. It is no respecter to any class of people. I mean, if it has to do with ability to take care of your health needs financially, I think that the number of people we have had passed on certainly wouldn't have died. As we sit today, America has registered over 400,000 deaths as a result of COVID.
Yep.
America has virtually everything, but they simply could not prevent this. I was having a discussion with a friend and I said, could you imagine one country mistakenly killing 2 Americans? America would have still been bombing those countries as a result of that. We have all lost people. And I think that in looking at some of these issues, in as much as we look at it globally, what is important is that we need to quench the fire in our home before we can be thinking of assisting others in quenching their fires. Look, we are deceiving ourselves, this country. And in as much as I agree that we all need to take personal responsibility of ensuring that we take the necessary steps and measures to avoid being contracted by this disease, the onus lies on those who are given the mandate to govern. The responsibility to a very large extent lies on the government. No private individual or entity could go access any funds anywhere as a result of COVID. You have a government that went in and got a lot of money. We went to the IMF, we got about $1 billion, and part of the reasons for the justification of accessing that money was COVID. Of course, it wasn't just meant to use that money entirely for COVID, but the justification for which we went to access the money was using COVID. We have gone to the World Bank. We got money specifically meant for COVID, hundreds of millions of dollars. We have gotten a lot of assistance from other people. We've taken money from the stabilization funds and others to do that. The question is, have we been able to account properly? And I'm talking about this accountability because officially we have stopped the contact tracing. Officially we have stopped the testing. How do you know or determine the number of people who are infected with COVID when we are not doing testing? It is only testing that can give you a picture as to the number of people who have been infected with COVID. We are no longer doing testing. Now, aside even those who are being asymptomatic, even the hospitals, you can only go and undertake a private test. If you want to go, you go to Nyaho or any other place and do that. This is an official position by government. I heard the former Minister of Health who was it the former Minister of Health or the former Minister of Communication, that they want to start again with the contact tracing, you know, and that is what they want to employ. And yesterday, I listened to an interview that was conducted by a sister media house, Power FM, in which one of the district health workers are saying that what they were promised as those who were engaged in contact tracing, the promise have still not been honored. Some of her colleagues died as a result of COVID, and their families are struggling, that they were made a lot of promises, and those promises haven't been honored. And she was asking whether they will be willing, indeed, to engage in the contact tracing again, let alone the testing. And this monies that we went in for, I think that something ought to be done. Yesterday on the floor, Honorable Mama Yerga moved a private motion to ask government to suspend the payment of fees for tertiary students, at least for one academic year. Look, Kudi, I haven't even been paid a single dime as a member of parliament representing the people of Tamale Central. But I can tell you, within last week and this week, I've paid about 8 people's school fees. The monies otherwise I would have used to get myself established and start running. Because they come with genuine concerns that you can't just let them go. So I think that such calls are necessary because we know the consequences of COVID, one, on our socioeconomic life, the consequences of COVID, on even the trustability that is supposed to exist between people. Because now people no longer interact as you otherwise would have interacted, which is part of our sociocultural makeup. We no longer do that. The economic consequences are just enormous. The businesses are collapsing, and that is not to say that you can blame that on government. It's as a result of this. So when government goes in to access money for and on behalf of the people of this country, it ought to be used for the purpose for which the monies were contracted. That is why before the 2016, we demanded proper accountability. That if we know that this is the amount of money that we have gone in for the purposes of COVID, we need to know what those monies have been used for. The extent to which you are no longer doing testing, the extent to which you are no longer doing contact tracing, the extent to which certain basic amenities that ought to be provided, PPEs for first-line health workers, are no longer being provided per the information we are getting from these district and regional hospitals. Yet we went in and contracted a lot of loans. Now, the only way by which myself and you and my good friend, any other person can believe that yes, the resources are not available, is for proper accountability. If government is able to tell us that yes, we went in for all these monies, this is how we spend the money, and the reason why we are no longer doing the testing, the reason why we are no longer doing the contact tracing is because the money is no longer available. Now, if you do that, I think that we can all be convinced if you need to urge government to go in for another loan, then we can do that. But until such proper accountability is not done, it will be extremely difficult for me sitting here to want for a better word to say that government actually judiciously used the monies that they went in for the purposes of overcoming this challenge. So I think that it is important. One other very important point that I want to make with this has to do with the vaccine. We have been told by Mr. Nanado that by next month or two, that we will start administering our own vaccine. I think that that is extremely dangerous. And I say it's dangerous because how prepared are we to administer the vaccine? Even the countries where they got these vaccines, those countries, they had to do testing of the vaccines before they can administer the vaccine on the larger population. We haven't done that. There are several companies in America, in Europe, and even Iran have come out with their own vaccine. I don't want to belabor the point that Noguchi has the capacity to come out with its own vaccine if they get the needed support. I don't want to belabor that point. But the vaccines we are bringing in, by now we should have known this is the particular vaccine that we are bringing into this country. Our scientists should test the vaccine on certain people who would volunteer to be tested so that we see the efficacy of the vaccine and the consequences of it. We are not doing that. We just want to bring the vaccine, vaccinate the people of this country, without taking into consideration the consequences. And mind you, every medicine or vaccine has its repercussions. How prepared are we? What kind of assessment have we done? How prepared are we in terms of test running even the vaccine to be able to ascertain that yes, this thing was something that was developed somewhere. Our biological makeup may be different from theirs, and we need to be conscious of that. That what is applicable in that country or in those countries may not be. We saw the experiences in the swine flu, even polio. The reason why you still have people resisting polio in Africa is that when the vaccine was discovered, and it was just hook, line, and sinker, applied in many African countries, it occasions a lot of deaths, a lot of physical challenge, disabilities among kids. And that is why, for me, getting the vaccine and using it in this country is important. But what is more critical is we test running the vaccine.
Right.
Use the vaccine on people who are willing and will volunteer to do that, so that we'll be able to say with certainty that yes, this may be the repercussions of the vaccine. But if we want to look at the effects of it in Europe, in America, and we think that is the same effect that is going to happen here, that may be extremely dangerous.
Thank you very, very much. Mr. Pratt, please.
Well, I mean, COVID is wreaking havoc all over the world. And in Ghana, over the last 2 weeks, there is some evidence that the cases of COVID are rising. And many people have died, including my younger brother, who has not been buried, as yet. Now, I'm completely shocked. I'm learning that we are no longer doing contact tracing. For goodness sake, what in hell would justify the decision of government to abandon contact tracing in this situation? I mean, I'm completely shocked. The irresponsibility is beyond description. I saw the statement issued by the Ghana Medical Association, which is warning us that all of our intensive care units are full. What should we do? And then over the last 2 days, we sent policemen to go and arrest people who are not wearing masks and so on. What foolishness is this? You have come to tell us that out of 30 million people, only 300 have COVID. Why should anybody wear masks? When you are deliberately playing down the figures, when you are creating the impression that you've done a wonderful job fighting COVID and lowering our guard. If COVID is that serious, why are you reopening schools? Why are you reopening schools if COVID is that serious? So if you're reopening schools, if you're playing down the numbers, if you are not doing contact tracing and so on, why arrest innocent people who are not wearing masks? This duplicity must stop. People think that all of us in Ghana are idiots, so they can tell us any story and get away with it. Look, over the last 2 weeks, me alone, the people I know who have had COVID or died from COVID, I've counted 12. 12. Just randomly, 12, including my brother. We should be worried about this complete recklessness with which we are handling the COVID situation. Now, all these people who are dying and so on, if you stop contact tracing, how are we to know the scope of the spread of the disease? How are we to deal with it and so on? I read the statement of the Ghana Medical Association and I didn't know what to make of it. The Ghana Medical Association is now telling us citizens that we should take our destiny in our own hands. Why don't we have a government? Why don't we have a government? Other countries have started, doing mass vaccinations, and so many countries are estimating that in the first week they are going to vaccinate millions of people and so on. When is the vaccination in Ghana going to start? And then we hear people say that, we get free water, we get free electricity, and so what? The numbers are rising. People are dying. My brother is dead. Perhaps if he had access to a ventilator in good time, he would be alive. We should stop this hanky-panky game, you understand? And then everybody looks around and says, as for Africa, the numbers are low. Why would the numbers not be low when we have stopped doing contact tracing? I listened to an interview by a representative of Ghana Medical Association on radio yesterday. I nearly wept. He's now complaining that they were told that if people who had underlying conditions died of COVID, they should not announce that they died of COVID, but they should announce that they died of underlying conditions. What is that? If I had a heart condition, and I drive out of here and smash my car and die out of an accident, why would any doctor announce that I died of a heart condition? I mean, common sense too has eluded public officials. Common sense too they don't get. Kwame, let's move on.
Kwame, let me just make this point.
Yeah.
I remember I made this point here, I think on an allergy sometime. About some few months ago, I went to the testing center in Tamale. You know, they used to have a testing center there. And the information I got there was shocking. A particular week, they went and did the testing for the police training school at Poalugu. 600 trainees were tested. Over 300 tested positive. Over 300 tested positive. And when they sent the report, that week when they were announcing, they never mentioned it. So I'm saying that, and I agree absolutely. Let's be honest and sincere with each other. Nobody is saying that it is the cause of government. It is a global pandemic. Government must be seen taking responsibility. Look, this pandemic, it is not a respecter of NDC or MPP or CPP. But when we begin to think that, oh, the moment you admit and take responsibility, it makes the government look bad. And I think that is where we are. And that is the challenge.
We warned that this registration exercise is not a sensible thing to do in a pandemic. Some people thought that if they change the voter register, they would win elections as well. You change the voter register, did everything, you have 137. What's the use of that voters register, which has subjected many people to pain and misery and death and so on? Look, public officials must be held accountable. When they make wrong decisions, such as decisions which have been made about COVID, leading to mass death and so on, leading to a situation in which the Ghana Medical Association tells us that our intensive care units are full, they must pay a penalty for it.
Well, if you just joined us, you're watching the newspaper review segment, and it's rather very heartbreaking how we are dealing with this COVID-19 issue in Ghana. And I'm learning. I'm sure, Nabu, you will be privy to it as well. Those of us from the northern part of this nation, that in the villages there are no masks, there are no PPEs, nothing, absolutely nothing. And yesterday in the morning when I was coming to the office, I had 10 calls from people.
It's not in the villages, in the city centers. Tamale is the fastest growing city in West Africa. The last time I went there,
nobody.
I couldn't count 20 people wearing face masks.
Yeah.
Tamale, it's not about villages.
Attend the weddings and outdoors, you'll be shocked.
I think the villages are even better. Campaigning, you realize that rather in the inner villages, you'll be shocked to see them, well, whatever it looks like, but that psychological consciousness that I have to wear a mask, I saw it visibly in my constituency, at least to quite a good. But the worry now is even the urban centers, weddings, funerals, outdoorings, social.
But who opened the system up?
No, but listen, when we had the secretary to the president, Asante Bediutu, whose wedding he had. The president attended. Of course, he was on his nose mask and everything. But many people there were not.
No, that's not true.
No, it's true.
With the greatest
go and check. Hold on, go and check.
That wedding was strictly by invitation.
No, which wedding? I'm saying the reception. Go and check the video.
Yes, you don't go there. Well,
I'm saying I have the video. I can show it to you.
Send the video to me.
Differ from that.
Send the video to me.
I'll show you the video.
Send the video to Justice up here.
I'll show you the video.
If indeed that's what happened, we'll play. Because I think that we all must ensure that we.
And I even made the point. I even made the point after this. That yes, you may have the president and others using it. Even the bride and the groom, they didn't have their nose mask. I'm just saying, please. When you watched yesterday, Joe Biden and the wife, they have even been vaccinated. They had that. The purpose for using it
Yeah.
At least, if for nothing, the symbolism.
Absolutely.
That is the point I am making.
Absolutely. Well,
look, you go to the beach during the Christmas and the New Year. No, I will. I'm saying that you go to during the Christmas and the New Year. You realize that they had opened the place and people were jamboreeing and
that's my worry.
Yes.
That's my worry.
I'll just
to the extent that in the president's own address to the nation, he stated that people attended weddings, people went for parties.
No, but that is what all of us here are admitting to.
But who opened the system up? You said people could go for parties. You said people could go for weddings and things like that. Anyway, let's move on.
I'm just looking for
there's another very disturbing story. Sale of newborn babies. Police crack syndicate, 2 doctors, 4 nurses. I just have about 30 minutes to go because of the election petition. But let me see if I can find that particular statement. Otherwise, we'll just move on and discuss. Right. Okay, so if you have the video, just send it to me. Right. So
he said I should forget about the video.
If the video is not there, you should forget.
I won't forget about the video.
If it is there, you can send it. But I believe it's not there.
Respectfully. So yesterday, there was a joint statement issued by Medical and Dental Council and Economic and Organized Crime Office. Joint statement by the medical. Okay, right. So on baby harvesting and trafficking, and they've arrested some doctors and some nurses who were involved in this practice. I think it's very long. Let me see if I can read just a little bit of it, the background at least. The Medical and Dental Council and the Economic and Organized Crime Office have been investigating the activities of some medical practitioners, nurses, social welfare officers, and other individuals who were suspected to be engaged in the illegal act of baby harvesting and human trafficking. The joint team carried out investigations into the illegal activities between the periods of June to November 2020. As a result of these investigations, 2 medical doctors, 2 social workers, 4 nurses, 2 mothers, and 1 traditional birth attendant have been arrested so far and are on bail pending further investigations. We currently have in our possession 2 baby boys who were bought as a result of the operation. They make mention of 1 doctor, arrest of Dr. Hope Mensah Kwashi, arrest of social welfare officer Mr. Leonard Agble, arrest of Dr. Noah Kofi Latte, and in those arrests they made other arrests as well. So Dede Gifty Anikwi, Angela Metepe, Dede Gifty Anikwi again, John Adore Efie, and a few others were also arrested. Honorable Murtala Mohammed, let me start with you on this one.
In fact, I was actually flipping.
You are flipping. Okay, then let me start. I think, yeah, but it's probably not. I've read the background to the story.
About the arrest of...
of course, yes.
Of who?
The sale of newborn babies and the arrest
yes. I think it is extremely worrying. And let me also state that this is not the first time we're having such stories. Maybe the gravity of this one is what we are looking at. As a little boy growing up, I know in the Tamale Teaching Hospital, a woman came there and stole a baby. Yes. And when the woman was finally arrested, she was not stealing the baby to go take care of the baby, but she was contracted to do that. And she was going to sell the baby to someone for money. That was several years ago when I was a little boy growing up. I also know another incident where a baby who was taken by a woman, the boy he grew up to about 8 years, that they realized that that was not the real child, and they were able to discover the real child. Now, people cannot do that in the hospitals without the connivance of health workers. Look, almost all my 4 kids were delivered through cesarean. You go there, the cesarean is done, you have the opportunity to see the child, and you may not see the child again until maybe after some hours. Because once the cesarean is done, and all the cesareans I was standing by, after that I need to, as a Muslim, when a child is born, you need to do certain things. Having done that, you will not even be able to examine the baby very well. After that, the baby is sent by the health worker somewhere. For you to have access to the baby, to take about 4 or 5 hours. The woman, if they do cesarean, sometimes after 1 hour, 2 hours, or 3 hours, the woman will still be unconscious. She wouldn't have access to the child, you wouldn't have access to the child. Anything can happen within this time. We also saw, in fact, I think that less than about 3 or 4 months ago, a woman who went to one of the hospitals, And then a woman approached her at the hospital trying to help. She left the child with the woman and was going to buy something. By the time she returned, she wasn't. But I think that this story is talking about a huge scale.
Yeah.
We hear these stories in other countries. With all due respect to our friends from Nigeria, we find a lot of stories of that in Nigeria, not only in the movie industries, but we hear such stories. And for me, that is why it is extremely worrying when we have this. We need to find out the security within the hospitals. For me, that is very important. Now, we also need to find out the security within our homes. There are a lot of maid servants who may be engaged in that. You just have a maid servant, you don't know the background of the woman, you don't know where she's coming from, yet you have been tasked with the responsibility to take care of your kids. And I think that, one, this is where we need to take personal precautions as parents. And two, at the point of delivery at the hospitals, the security there is just nothing to write home about.
Right. Elvis?
Purely a worrying situation, and one that finds itself within the brackets of, our medical, legal, considerations, because it's purely criminal to steal babies, and in the first place, the human being is not a sellable commodity. The human being is not a marketable commodity. I think that there is no justification whatsoever to what has happened. The question is, if what we are hearing today is the case, it means that in the past, for how long have this been happening without our knowledge?
That's the issue.
For how long? What kind of nurses and doctors do we now have in the system? It tells that academic intelligence does not necessarily reflect morality. But we live in a society where we think that anybody who has been able to gain access to medical school, who's been able to go for one medical course or the other, is an angel, is a saint. No, look at what they are doing now. It is a proper syndicate. If the buyers are even people who, for some form of marginalization as a result of barrenness or whatsoever, are doing this to cover some shame and would even in the end take very good care of these kids, it wouldn't even be worrying. But I tell you that a greater percentage of these sold children are actually trafficked outside the country for either rituals, slavery, or some other form of purposes which you and I will not even be able to talk about here. So clearly, Ghana is up there again. The issue is, what is the security installations and internal security systems in all various health facilities? During delivery, as he touted, it's worrying. Because you only have, for example, if your child happens to even be a preterm baby, that is even worse. Because immediately after the CS, as always witnessed in most of the cases, before you even gain consciousness, the baby is carried to the NICU. Mm-hmm. Where even you, the parent, might not have access to your own baby, sometimes in a period of 24 hours or more, because of the protocols you have to observe before seeing your own baby. Why won't nurses steal them? I was very fortunate. Mine happened to be twins, very identical. If they had stolen any of them at 37, I would have known. Because I would have known. You see, but this is a serious situation. Now, what are we doing? It calls for us to immediately put in CCTVs and make sure that, you see, it's just a worry. We need to go back up to the table and discuss security measures we can use to cut off. Because if it's a syndicate, it means that even CCTVs will not help. Because the person controlling the internal security unit could be part of that syndicate.
Absolutely.
So clearly, it's a worry, and leadership must look at it. I am sure that God have revealed this one so we can punish them critically for others to learn lessons from. I would have wished that on this particular subject. I would have wished that our constitution had granted, some form of life-taking as sentence. The death sentence is what I'm talking about. I wish it would have been active. We activate it on the people who will be found culpable for the sale of children in this particular story. Let's hang 2-3 people as an example. Let's hang them. Let's hang them publicly. You know what it means for the man to impregnate the wife? For all you know, some of these babies, the couple have gone 14, 15 years without a baby and have struggled to get one, then you go and sell for money. If selling kids is good business, give birth to as many children as you can and sell your own children. It's absolute nonsense. So let's hang them. Let's hang these people. I'm calling for these people to be hanged.
Thank you, Elvis. Hopefully you'll not be invited by the police like Ines Abuseni was. Mr.
No, I've not committed any crime. I've only suggested an opinion here. If they invite me, I'll go.
Mr. Ford, please.
Well, I read the story yesterday. First of all, I listened to it on radio, and then subsequently I read the statement which had been issued by Yoko and also, you know, by the Medical and Dental Council. And it wasn't strange. I mean, these are stories we'll be hearing over and over again. It's not new. You remember the woman who went and delivered at Confanoche Hospital and lost the baby, and it became such a huge national issue, and up to today the baby has not been found. You know, she was told that the baby had died, but nobody could produce, you know, the dead body and so on. So these are stories that we have known over a long period of time. And perhaps it is good that such important institutions have investigated and provided, you know, some basis for informed reaction, you know. But I'm just sitting here and wondering, what has gone wrong in the Ghanaian society and created conditions in which medical officers, not hoodlums, not people who would ordinarily describe as hoodlums, medical officers, doctors, will conspire with nurses and sell human beings for 30,000 Ghana cedis. That's what we should be looking at. There is something fundamentally wrong with our society, with us, with all of us, with Ghana. Doctors, you know how doctors are held in high esteem and so on. These are people who have been through the educational system. They've had to spend 7 years in the university to qualify to practice. And then, at the end of it all, after some years of experience and so on, they can allegedly conspire with others to sell a human being for 30,000 Ghana cedis. That's where the problem is.
30,000?
Yes.
Some 28,000, some 30,000.
Yes, yes. Now, if these people are offered 5,000 cedis to kill you, they will kill you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
Because the 30,000 is the final price for the baby. So the nurse will take some, the doctor will take some, the arranger will take some, everybody in the chain will take some. Everybody in the chain will take some. So in the end, how much comes to the individual? Maybe about 5,000 or less.
Yeah, that's true.
So that is how much money they need to sell a human being. And that's a huge statement about the kind of society we are building. I mean, my brother Elvis said that human beings are not sellable. And I was sitting here and I was wondering, Master, under capitalism, everything can be turned into a commodity. Under capitalism, everything and anything is a commodity. Profit drives everything. You forget that we had the transatlantic slave trade. Human beings have been sold throughout history. Our forebears, our ancestors and so on were sold as beasts of burden under capitalism. That is why this capitalist establishment needs to be smashed to smithereens. Because under capitalism, there's nothing that is not about business and making profit. We were talking about COVID a few moments ago. One of the problems, the major problems with COVID, is that the attempt to find a solution to it has also been turned into profit-making ventures. And the capitalism, the only thing which makes sense is what produces profit. If education does not produce profit for a businessman, education is useless. If fighting disease does not produce profit, don't pursue it. Everything is profit-driven. That is the danger. And Ghana is increasingly pursuing this neoliberal path. To where? To where? The neoliberal path, where is it taking us? This is where it is taking us. Everything is commodified. Everything is for sale. Everything is for profit. That is why we are here.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. 0260846539 is the WhatsApp number. We're also streaming live on Facebook, facebook.com/Pan-African Television, and on YouTube as well. You can leave your messages or your comments there. I will be glad to read them out. You can also send it to me on Twitter at Kwame Owusu Danso. I'll read it out. Let's move on and discuss three very important issues. Hopefully, we're able to finish them. I'm going to start from. Okay, I wanted to start from the bottom, but let me go straight to the third topic. Ghana faces worrying debt crisis. Ghana faces worrying debt crisis, and Elvis. Elvis, have you read the Moody's report?
Not yet.
Which was issued
I haven't read it.
on the 18th of January 2021.
If you do have a copy, let me have it. I haven't read it.
Elvis,
why is it a matter of interest relative to me?
Oh no,
whether or not I have read it.
Are you no longer my brother? I was only asking a very harmless question. Ghana's economy could come under some pressure from the rising debt, which is projected to hit about 80% of gross domestic product by the end of this year, according to ratings agency Moody's 2021 Sub-Saharan African Outlook report. Maybe, Elvis, because you're not seized with the report, I will let Honorable Murtala Mohammed start, and then you can look for the report.
I thought, haven't not seen the report, he'd be in a better position to tell us the.
Yeah, because they said the economy was very robust.
The true state of the
could withstand the shocks.
The robustness of an economy does not necessarily mean it will not be debt-ridden. In fact, borrowing and collection of debts is a fundamental component in running an economy. And most developing economies have done that. What we need to consider critically, and I'm by this not making my submission yet, what we need to consider critically is to be able to make an analysis as to whether the debt is one which is perilous to the foundation of the economy, or it is one that is reinvested in a manner, be it investment, be it consumption, okay, but it's one that is able to protect the marginal propensity to save and to be able to what? To consume. Those are the things we should be looking at. And my problem in Ghana has always been, over the years, has always been the situation where, because of the kind of public sector system we run, the public purse is drained up to about 75% only on the salaries of, the formal sector. So already that shrinks the widening nature of GDP growth, okay, relative to the raw economy and its stability. And so when you begin to have a situation where debts are hugely accumulated against the background of same GDP, then it means then that there could be that danger, because we do a lot of importation, and the net import at the end, net export at the end of the day, which is supposed to affect bottom lines of external stock markets and to be able to stabilize the dollar, really the CD relative to the dollar, now becomes a problem. And so these borrowings do not go into production, and that is where mass source of war is. Look, I am young, I'm a youth, we have a lot of upcoming generation and posterity, and these are where the war is. So I am not saying that these debts are entirely bad, but let us scrutinize how it is being used relative to how it was being accumulated. Now, the report you read, just the first few lines, was not a conclusive report to say that I said what the few lines he just read. The report is only warning that it could be the situation if steps are not taken. And so clearly these are matters of figures. Borrowing has never been a crime, but as to whether it is reckless or not is another to be determined. And so that is what I would say. You speak so passionately about what we were supposed to use our borrowings for. And in your estimation, it is better to use it on production as opposed to consumption. But if you look at the kind of economy that we're running now, it is quite obvious that a lot of the borrowings that, you know, a lot of the borrowings were on consumption. Exactly the point I made. But yeah, so it means that I'm saying that look, it is naturally the case that so it means that you're a captain of a sinking ship. No, I am saying that this, be it under government A or government B, Ghana, like many African developing African countries, unfortunately, are not production driven, and for which reason a chunk of what we do, first of all, is dependency. And we do so just to be able to address the foundational issue of basic consumption. And for me, I am expressing it as a worry. So you are actually seconding the point I am making. So I am making the point that in the end, it is a worry that debts are rising in Ghana. It is a worry that debts are rising in Africa. I would have wished that even as debt rises, we channel it to some form of primary or intermediate production. And that is not what is happening. Okay. So you are merely seconding the point I am making. But I'm saying that, look, in all these issues, you are able to make an analysis as to whether the economy is what you may describe as one which is robust or otherwise based on its ability to have the kind of external shocks within its reserves that are able to withstand the perils of these huge debts. And I'm saying that under the current circumstances, the finance ministry was not wrong to have said that the Ghanaian economy is robust, given that under the current circumstances, if we go into the detail of it, you realize that the propensity to save is still a good one, so much so that it reflects on inflation and interest and those things in a considerable manner, despite even COVID, despite other issues that are so much of externalities that will run down a normal economy. So at least, yes, the debt rise does not necessarily mean that current government alone have done that. It is an accumulation of previous debts. I am not seconding debts, but it is an accumulation of previous debts. And we saw reckless borrowing. I am still waiting for anybody, including him, to tell me the theory in economy that is so much against borrowing. It is what it is used for. We saw reckless borrowing. We saw reckless borrowing under the NDC, and what it did to us, what it did to public sector employment, what it did even to the private sector, what it did to our energy security. We saw that. That was reckless. Those parameters become reflective. Are those features characteristics of the current so-called heightening debts? No. So it tells you that something is working. Anyway, you understand? Anyway, so those should be the basis and parameters within which we should debate the economy of this matter, and not just the nominal figures as to whether debts are rising or not.
I mean, I wanted to engage you further, but because of time, because I know that government is going into the domestic market to borrow in order to get by in quarter 1 of its activities. But we can't get into all of that. I'm sure at the appropriate time we'll deal with it. Honorable, let me come to you.
When you are defending something that is indefensible, you use words such as parameters, propensity, the adjective, you find them everywhere. It is very clear that this economy is sinking. As a matter of fact, it is on its knees. Debt to GDP is over 75%. That should be worrying to you. The international standard, which is just even unacceptable, that any country should reach, is about 65%. We are getting to 75%. Do you need anybody to tell you that this economy is in shambles? As a matter of fact, even members of parliament, their last salary, it took them 10 extra days to have their salaries paid. Members of parliament, the continuing members of parliament. Now, when we talk about the disaster that is before us, you tell us that the NDC went in for reckless borrowing. What do you describe as reckless borrowing? You yourself, you have admitted that when you borrow for consumables, that is recklessness. Juxtapose the NDC's borrowing and the borrowing that is done by this government. It is very clear that this government is engaged in nothing but reckless borrowing, because almost 70% of what you have borrowed is used for consumables. As a matter of fact, the borrowing that the NDC went in, the 50 billion. Do you know how much you have gone in for? Over 150 billion within the period of 4 years. What the NDC went in for, we didn't borrow to spend. We borrowed to execute projects. These were capital intensive projects. Projects that has the capacity to generate economic what? Growth. When you build roads, roads are capital investment.
They are exercises.
Please. Oh, please. I say roads are capital investment. And when you borrow money to execute projects such as roads, you are building the economy because they have the capacity to generate the needed revenue. Maybe if you care to know, when you have a distance of travel between one end to another, that will take you about 10 hours because the road network is not good. And you are able to construct the roads, and you reduce the time spent in moving from one end to another. If you are spending 10 hours, you now spend 4 hours. Economically, it's good, because the amount of money you would have spent will reduce, the fuel you would have burned will reduce. President Mahama borrowed to construct roads. President Mahama borrowed to construct bridges. President Mahama borrowed to construct harbors, which all had the capacity to generate needed revenue for this country. Now, listen to the one who is talking about the value of our Ghanaian currency. The reduction and the depreciation of the value of our currency as against other currencies lies squarely on the face of this government. And I'll give you palpable evidences. Between when NDC won elections in 2000, from the NPA, when the NDC lost elections in 2000, we were spending about $250 million in importation of rice into this country. Mind you, when you import, you have to look for the few foreign exchange available to be able to buy those things into this country. By the time the NDC lost power in 2000, by the time NPP lost power in 2008, we were spending about $600 million in the importation of rice into this country. Let me remind him. Under Prof. Mills and President Mahama, because of the effort that was put in place in 2014, and you can check it from the Minister of Agriculture and the Minister of Finance, the amount of money we're spending in the importation of rice had reduced. In fact, there was a reduction in the importation of rice into this country by 40%. And there was an increase in the production of local rice by 60%. So there is a direct correlation. Importation of rice into this country, 40% reduction. The percentage increase in the production of local rice was by 60%. And when I was sent to the Minister of Trade as a deputy minister, remember, Honorable Haruna had indeed imposed some restriction on the importation of rice by small rice farmers into this country. They were following petitions upon petitions for the ban to be lifted. When I went there, I remember, and before Honorable Dr. Spiogabra came there, and there was a petition. What we did at the ministry was to investigate the petitions as they were presented. One from the small rice importers and one from the big rice importers. We realized that the importation of the ban on the small rice importers was very good. We said we're not going to lift the ban. They financed your party. They financed the NPP. And as a result of that, when you won elections, you lifted the ban unconditionally. 2016, we were spending $450 million in the importation of rice into this country. Today, official communication alone, we are spending $1.2 billion in the importation of rice and other poultry products into this country. From $450 million to $1.2 billion, that is the official position of this government. You can find that from the Minister of Finance, you can find that from the Minister of Agriculture. $1.2 billion. How do you expect the value of your currency
to appreciate?
So it is the direct recklessness of how the economy is managed. Last point. President Mahama having realized that our pharmaceutical companies had the capacity to produce drugs that could meet the WHO standard. The only challenge they had was that they didn't have the capacity to produce more. There was a direct financial assistance given to pharmaceutical companies, and as a result, a lot of them expanded. By the time we lost elections in 2016, they had reduced the amount of money that they were spending in importing products, pharmaceutical products in this country, because of that vision with which President Mahama gave them direct financial assistance. You have abandoned that. So I'm saying that if we are talking about the value of our currency losing, its competitiveness, it is as a result of reckless policy interventions. Your so-called 1D1F, where is it? Absolutely reckless.
It was about heightening debt.
But
I have made a clear economic argument.
Can I make my point?
In the first place, the Congress women on the right.
Can I make my point? When you are making your analysis, oh please,
and tell him the figures.
When you are making your point, that's not even true. If your government did better, when you just stand in Accra, you don't need rocket sciences. Anybody can point to roads that President Mahama engaged in, the hospitals he built. Anybody can point. Tell me in Accra, just come out and point to which road. Even the roads you claim you are doing were started by President Mahama. So don't even go there. Every single person who is watching this program, in every region, in every district, can point out to infrastructure that President Mahama executed. And I'm saying in Accra here, don't go anywhere. I want you to mention 2 roads or 3 that this government is engaged in. That was not even started by President Mahama. I can point out to the hospitals. I can point out to the roads. You made references. You made references to the value of our currency. The currency losing its competitiveness.
Absolutely.
And that has a direct impact on the economy.
Yeah.
And I'm giving you a classical example. The reason why this is, the facts are available. Find out how much we were spending in the importation of rice and poultry products in this country in 2016. And find out how much is it now. The 1.2 billion figure was 2019. By now, I believe that would have been spending more. And it is a fact that you lifted the ban unconditionally because they finance your party. That's a fact.
Yeah. Akufo-Addo is going to build 88 hospitals. I'm sure it's going to come from the building. So yeah. Mr. Pratt, I'm told the court is not in session yet, so please.
But no matter how you look at it, the economy of Ghana is in dire straits. You're running an economy which is not able to generate enough resources to pay public sector workers. What other evidence do you need? You can't pay workers. If you don't borrow, you can't pay workers. That's a terrible situation for our economy. We are spending 91% of total revenue plus grants paying principal and paying debt. How can this economy be buoyant? The value of your currency is constantly dropping. Right now, if you go to the market, you need about 6 cedis to be able to get $1. How can you be beating your chest and saying that the economy is doing well? How can the economy be doing well in this situation? Yesterday, after some time, I went and bought a ball of kenke. It's 2 cedis, 50 pesos. Only recently we were buying kenke at 50 pesos per ball. Now it's 2 cedis, 50 pesos per ball. Look, last week when school reopened, I had a lot of parents coming and showing me the bills they had to pay. Not primary, not senior secondary school, not university. Some people in nursery school are paying 7,000 cedis a term for a 2-year-old kid. How many parents earn 2,000 cedis a month? How many parents earn 2,000 cedis a month? So when our leaders look into our face and they tell us that the economy is doing well, I don't know what we should be telling them. This economy is on its knees. Complete on its knees. If you don't borrow, you can't do anything. You understand? And if you are not a beneficiary of ex gratia awards, forget it. you are doomed to die. You understand? You fall sick today and see what will happen to you. A friend of mine has a problem with a bone, something. She went to hospital. Do you know the bill? 80-something thousand Ghana cedis for one medical procedure. This is a young girl of about 20-something years. Even people who have worked for 30 years, how can they afford to pay 80,000 cedis one medical bill? And our leaders are sitting there, they are beating their chest and saying they are doing well. Of course they are doing well for themselves. Their children go to school in Birmingham and New York and so on, and they pay fees in dollars and pounds. They don't feel it. They don't buy petrol. They take their cars to the filling station. It is filled for them free. They don't pay for it. So yeah, for them the economy is doing very, very well. The masses in Lima, in Mamobi, in Shukura, Kutuwabi Danso, go and tell them that the economy is doing well. Go to Shukura and tell the people of Shukura that the economy is doing well. So stop wasting our years. We've had enough of this. This economy is in serious trouble. And the way out of this economy is complete and total restructuring.
Right, thank you, Mr. Pratt. I will still want to stay with you on the last topic. Bahamas stages come back after Supreme Court ruling, and this has been reported by the new...
That's not the last topic.
Crusading, well, because of time. That's what I'm saying. That it's contingent on when the court
okay, so
sits.
The fourth topic.
Yes, the fourth topic. So
actually, when I first saw the story, I was deeply worried because it appeared to be suggesting that after the case in the Supreme Court, Mahama will make a move to become president again. But when I read the story, it is totally different. And I don't know whether this was deliberately done or that it happens. It happens with all of us sometimes and so on. What the story is simply saying is that the lawyers for President Mahama filed an application for some interlocutories, whatever that means, to be admitted for the Electoral Commission to come and answer some questions. The court ruled against it, and there has been an appeal. That's the headline. Well, maybe it's journalistic license. Maybe it is journalistic license. Does anybody seeing this headline would actually think that when the presidential election petition has been determined, after it has been determined, Mahama will try to come back and will contest the 2024 elections. But that's not what the story says.
It's very clear
that
Kweku Baku is on the path of a mischief.
Well, we cannot be sure that he did.
I beg you, but that is his paper. Just leave me.
Because, I'm saying I edit the inside.
No, but that is.
No.
But you take full responsibility. You take responsibility. Whatever you are the head of inside. So you take the ultimate responsibility.
You mean the back stops?
Yes, yeah. and I'm coming. Kweku Baku must take ultimate responsibility. And he's been engaged. And he's been engaged in this unjournalistic behavior. Because one, as a senior journalist as he's supposed to be, he ought to have known that the headline should reflect the content of your story. Look, is it that Kweku Baku and co know something more than we know about the petition case before the Supreme Court? That he can write such, and this is not the first time. If you listen to him, even the commentary he makes, perhaps they may have an information that all of us do not know. This is a case that is before the Superior Court of our land. The case is yet to be determined. And it is after the determination of the case
that all of these issues
can come up. And in fact, if there is a determination of the case, there's certainly going to be a rerun, because that is what the NDC is seeking. A determination of it which suits the NDC's, what we are seeking, the lawyers are seeking for and on behalf of President Mahama, that there should be a rerun of the elections. That's what our lawyers are seeking before the Supreme Court.
The release.
Now, assuming that the reliefs are granted, then there is going to be what? A rerun of the elections. And that rerun is not going to take place in 2024. That rerun is not going to take place in 2024. That rerun will only take place this year. Now, the idea of 2024 is that when all these things are done, maybe perhaps he's aware that the court is not going to rule in favor of President Mahama and the purpose for which he's in the Supreme Court. If he is, he should tell us. I mean, this is just gutter journalism. And the least you talk about it, the better. Look, it is also an attempt to create some confusion within NDC. But you see, the sad aspects of it is that this was a gentleman who was seen, quote and unquote, he could sit on TV and say, President Mahama is his friend. I think that the NDC must learn some lessons. We must learn some lessons that those when we're in power who pretentiously suddenly become our friends, we need to know. Because you see, in this game of politics, it's not a religious preaching. When you have political power, it is not religion. If you want to preach as a religious person, go and mount the pulpit as a pastor or an imam. But as long as you engage in politics, do the politics. Right. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be mindful of moral responsibilities. You should. But when you begin to take people who are supposed to be your friends when they are not, because this thing is masterminded, I believe, by the Flaxafos.
I like the fact that you said you believe. So it's not a statement of fact.
I can appreciate the frustration.
I'm not frustrated.
The frustration and lamentations of my brother. But I think that there is nothing unjournalistic about this, and there is absolutely nothing wrong. Absolutely nothing wrong about the kind of heading he gave. Okay, this is a journalistic piece. Okay, and he must be able, or whosoever is behind a story, must be able to have a caption that you find intriguing, to want to read the story, to know the details. There is nothing unjournalistic about it. No, listen. Let's go back to the very wording of the sentence here. They say it's Mahama stages comeback after Supreme Court ruling. It may be ambiguous, but that may trigger my interest to want to read down the story to know what it is talking about. Was Mahama in court at the Supreme Court for one reason or the other or not?
Yes.
He was there, and yes. Has the Supreme Court passed some ruling already on certain aspects of your cases or not? No. Yes. So if your lawyers had a bad day in court over the interrogatories, and then hold on. No, but is there 2024 here? There's no 2024. I am worried you were. He did not say Mahama will come back after 2024.
What did he say?
Let's say come back.
Stage a comeback.
In what? That's not a comeback.
And in your own, that
is not stage.
Who defines comeback in this case?
So what lies the comeback?
So your argument is that it is reflective of the decision that was reached in court in respect of
of which
come back
unless it is
for the Supreme Court to review. That's yours.
That is all. Is it not a comeback?
That is staging.
And I getting it.
Stage a comeback.
I getting it. Yeah. It is a comeback. So I do not see if in the detailed write-up insinuations were made as though there is some foreseeableness in the kind of decision the current overall petition case is going to end, of which Mahama is staging a comeback. That would have been here. So let us not drag in extraneous issues the paper did not suggest. Let's not drag them in and judge them on those. If it was on the face of what?
It's a terrible journalistic.
Then we can always read such meanings into a whole lot of journalistic captions.
The fact that
so the fact that you're saying someone stages a comeback and the detailed write-up that won't suggest anything bad.
Do you listen to yourself? You said that we can read meanings into other pieces of work.
So we can always ask for
it doesn't matter.
And the meaning of this statement is subjective.
Oh, how subjective?
It's subjective. Okay. So your understanding of it should not be the parameters against which you judge them. If it was in favor of your party, we have seen worse things written about your party. You glorify. Especially you. The whole Ghana knows Murtala at once who glorifies propaganda when it is in favor of which comeback. Today you are here a simple sentence.
I say,
A simple sentence that frustrated you to think that someone's profession.
All right.
No,
all right.
I'm saying that we stop it.
Listen, the point is not. Hold on, gentlemen.
So that
hold on.
No, don't do that.
No, hold on. I'm not
asking me which comeback. Agreeing with me that
I'm telling you, I haven't agreed with you.
I haven't agreed. You have agreed with me.
Hold on. Okay,
there's nothing wrong with this country.
Yeah, I think because the court is still not in session, we have an opportunity to discuss the last.
But the viewers, please have a right to be heard.
You see, the stories come from the Flagstaff House, so he has the responsibility to defend it.
I really wanted us to discuss this illegal money
This
issue.
thing has nothing to do with
well, where's the WhatsApp phone, guys?
The Flagstaff House is willing to be in court and will respect.
Okay, so let me read a few messages on Facebook. This one says, so if the government in power has become a garbage of corruption, should he support them? Nepotism, must he support? I'm sure this person is responding to somebody. Please, Kennedy, tell Elvis that he doesn't know anything about saving or how to manage our debts. Because if the MPP government did well, we will not be here.
Where would we have been?
He said, okay. Kennedy, Ghana borrowing is not for consumption. It is for individual personal pocketing. Elvis has drunk some lies this morning from Dr. Baumia. Interesting.
No, it wasn't this morning. He took it 3 weeks ago. It's manifested.
This one says, Comrade Butala, you do. Fuseni Sibu says, the most corrupt government in the history of Ghana is Nanado's government. Patrick Barnes says, Mr. Elvis, so now borrowing is good, eh? African politicians. Mm-hmm. This one also says, what are the messages? Where Elvis is coming from, John Dramani Mahama built a regional hospital. Daniel Adams says, good morning. Okay, good morning, Daniel. Sadat Mashut says, come to me and tell me the economy is doing well. You will laugh at the wrong side of your mouth. Kweku Smith says, Mr. Pratt, the people's representative. Henry Anderson says, my condolences to Mr. Pratt. Helden Shika Click says, Comrade, tell them. Kwame Buedi says, Mr. Pratt, you always speak the truth. Elvis Peterson says, tell them. Oh. Okay, as for the insults, I won't read them. This one simply says, thank you, Mutala. Okay. Okay, Elvis is always trying to be controversial. Okay. Good morning, KOD and your panelists, especially the objective patriotic journalists in Ghana. Mr. Chikata is the leader of the JM legal team, and when... Okay, all right. This... No, it's Charlie. Court matter there. Make I just keep up.
If you're content.
I tell you, I'm not ready to be described as somebody who has pokobibri. Okay, all right. People are quoting Chachikata. My lords, I believe you are here to administer justice, and I also know that justice must not be sacrificed for expedition. Good morning, please. Honorable Mutala, is it true? Please tell them and let them know that Anado does not work for Ghana, but he works for his family members. Pugba in Tamale. Kyo, they have to invite you for a wedding. A day of the wedding, you arrive. Ken Arms. Okay, people are responding to people, so it's very difficult to read them. I think, well, should I close? I think I think I should close. I think I should close.
An allegation was raised here.
Which allegation? The video. I'm still waiting for the. I'm still waiting for the video.
I am still inviting to make the video.
When I was searching for the video,
yes,
and senior comrade can bear witness, he said I should leave it.
I told you.
Hold on. But do you have the video?
You can't find it.
Do you have the video?
Because I know you don't have the video.
Hold on. How do you know?
How do you know?
How do you know?
Produce the video.
Okay, thank you. Good morning to you, George from Medina. You've sent a message. I can't read it. Good morning to you, Mystic. Inside is our gentlemen. And then put up their mics. Julius Agawa and Tahiru Asawasi, you are watching. Good morning. I can't read your message, unfortunately. And to the many people who sent their messages, thank you very much for watching today's edition of Good Morning Africa. Thank you, Elvis. Thank you, Honorable. Thank you, Mr. Pratt. Thank you to you for watching today's edition. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Do have a very wonderful day today. Make sure you don't change the dial from Pan African Television because we're going to bring you the court proceedings. So keep watching Pan African TV. It's been an absolute pleasure serving you this morning. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a nice day.